Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. I'm so glad to be back with you here on Your Free TV. I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. Welcome, welcome. I always start by saying thank you. Thank you so much to everybody who supports the channel, makes it happen. Monthly, especially, you're like the, the royalty of this channel. Not that we have royalty, but you know what I'm saying. Monthly support is so great. And thank you so much to Linda for the donation and for everybody. I'm going to jump in here. I will be plugging at the end of the channel for my great at the end of the video for my great sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. The ESS60, incredible miracle molecule that gets into your neurons, into your mitochondria, cleaning all the garbage out, what we so need right now. So let's jump into the news. It's an exciting day, as always, every day under this second Trump administration. Should be the third, but is the second, is just off the charts incredible. So we have so much news. I'll put on the glasses and we'll jump in. And I think I'll start off by just saying this, which is very interesting and exciting. We might have Mike Lindell, who of course has been ruthlessly just attacked and assaulted and constantly, especially by the AG of Minnesota, who is the Islamist who wants there to be, just like MBamdani, where they send social workers to domestic assaults and rape. Okay, send us a social worker after you've just been violently assaulted. Yeah, but anyway, Mike Lindell sort of teased today that he is thinking of running for governor of Minnesota. And I think this is fantastic. Basically, I think partially it will be a help to get him protected from the massive lawfare against him. And I think it would be a fantastic run. And so check it out. Go to LindellOffenseFund.com, LindellOffenseFund.com, because besides that, of course, he's caught up in this DOMINION case, and also Smartmatic going after him so hard. He's the last standing person who has not settled or basically, just bent the knee to these people. And as Tulsi Gabbard is putting out these cases about Smartmatic with their bribery against something in Malaysia, all of this stuff going down, there is he needs to be able to defend himself because they're trying to steal his company without jury trial, and basically just say he's default guilty, just like they did with Alex Jones and others, these precedents to do with free speech. He needs about $200,000 in the next week to be able to launch his appeal. They've stripped him of tens and tens of millions of dollars, okay? So if you're in the means to do so, go help out Mike Lindell, and let's hope we're then funding him in the future to run for governor in Minnesota. I think it'd be fantastic. So that's a little aside. Of course, you saw the thumbnail in this video. We're going to be talking about what looks like it could be Xi. Really, he might not make it through this 4-day plenary to be still running China. So it's huge, and we're going to jump into that soon. So hold on, and we'll be getting there. But I wanted to talk about, of course, covering the waterfront here with the news because there's just so much of it. We have RFK Jr. going after the weaponization of science. This is massive, with prosecutions coming. And this reaches way back. Everything goes back to Epstein, right? But with Robert Maxwell, he's known as this huge publishing magnate, right? That he owned the publishing out of the UK. He's triple agent, Mossad, MI6, and Russia. Anyway, he controlled so much of what was medical journals, and people don't really realize that when they think about, of course, why was Epstein obsessed with science and all this? And now we know after the biowarfare and the planned transhumanism takeover of human biology. However, RFK Jr. is going hard on this weaponization of science, and we get Ed Martin out of the weaponization of government, okay, who is the real deal, should be replacing Todd Blanche as assistant DOJ, but he is with Harmeet Dillon at the Weaponization of Government Task Force, and they're going after the regulatory capture of HHS. Okay, and this is huge because it gets into prosecutions coming into things related to the Institute of Medicine, which is kind of infamous all the way back. It's basically, this was used at the CDC to vouch for totally toxic, horrible things, from Agent Orange to mRNA, getting validated as good and proven science when they're absolutely super toxic, and that fraud, just massive fraud, committed through this Institute of Medicine. And so basically the prosecutions are coming to do with defrauding the federal government. You can check out this at mahainstitute.us, and yeah, this is going down. So they're holding, they're holding plenary meetings. They're talking. They're getting testimonies, all of it, and this gets into the medical journals, which RFK Jr. has been talking about for some time. The fraud within the medical journals, where they'll totally drop great, totally double-blind studies and proven medicine from the journals, and especially we saw it all massively during the biowarfare era, even though that era is constantly going on. But the one where they tried to turn us into a totalitarian country a few years ago. Well, yeah, the medical journals are on the hot seat here, basically for falsifying the record of public knowledge through the removal of legitimate studies, from everything to do with the V, to promoting bogus studies. And so this is all going down. It's very exciting. And we're going to be seeing some prosecutions here. And it's very, it's thrilling to me because we have everything to do with one of the big players here. I believe his name is Tom Shikoro, known in that world as sort of the big pharma fixer, that they'd always call on him to push these bogus studies, to push fake science. And with regulatory capture, we're talking about instituting policy based on corporate money, okay, coming in, and all the payoffs and the careerism to do with big med pharma, deep state careerists, right? Just like the SES, what we talk about in in the State Department, other places across, that have created deep state over decades. The same thing at the HHS. They're going after these people, and this guy Shikaro, and I might be getting his name not exactly right. I need to recheck that. I don't think I wrote it down correctly, but basically some of the big things here is pushing shots on pregnant women, despite massive evidence of fetal damage and death, not to mention the health of the woman. So basically, where you're seeing, we saw with the mRNA shots, the V shots, that we saw, massive miscarriages. Okay, that happened with that. So this is all going down, and I think it's super fantastic. Yeah, something to celebrate. And so going on from there, I will just touch on this real quick. We now have this coming out of the New York Times, the toilet paper of record, where we get this situation of Amazon now coming out, being basically caught out, but it's planning. It's so funny, after the Amazon Web Service crash yesterday and over the weekend, that we get this situation where it's now come out that basically they're going to be laying off 65% of their workforce, that they are going with robots, and these people are not reliable or act as quick as what they need from their algorithms. And these people that are working for Amazon in the warehouses, they're just constantly surveilled and constantly having to respond to everything run by AI through their cell phones, prompting them, telling them what to do every second of every work hour. But they'll be gone soon. It looks like about 600,000 people are going to be gone, and so it is. It's up and coming really quick, and we already know it, but it's sad to see it. because of, these are side gig jobs. These are also just gig jobs. A lot of people who work at Amazon can't even afford a place to live, right? They're living out of their cars and then going to work in these massive warehouses in the middle of nowhere. So very interesting to know that, they're expendable, right? They're expendable. And so as we move forward, I'll mention this real quickly. We have also coming out that Antifa has put out, Antifa adjacent groups, that basically now they're creating a hit list of the people who were at the White House domestic terrorism meetup, where they brought in independent reporters, people like um, um, uh, uh, Hernandez, she's amazing. Savannah Hernandez, Nick Sorter, Andy No, these people, all of them getting put on an attack and hit list by Antifa. So we'll see, pray for their safety massively. And then in the James Comey stuff, we've got Brennan referred to the justice system we get Brennan referred to the justice system for indictment, for investigation. Okay, there's way more going on besides this, but it comes out through totally corrupt Jim Jordan at the judiciary, right? That judiciary is now saying, "Oh, we suddenly know that Brennan has been, lied multiple times before Congress about." And in testimony to their committee, that basically, he knew everything about what happened with the Steele dossier. That it all was coming through him, is why they did the fake ICA report that then lent to the creation of the Steele dossier being involved in everything going after Trump. And that's they're putting that out as big news now, but there are already, in my understanding, a Brennan grand jury out there. So this seems like a diversion and deflection. We have Tulsi Gabbard's amazing report already come out, and Caroline Leavitt has spoken about it from the press room at the White House, completely detailing, how Brennan orchestrated with Comey. Specifically, we even have Svetlana Lokhova, who was the woman they tried to entrap in this honeypot scheme, which never happened, to go after General Flynn. That they had an affair that never happened. Flynn's a Russian agent. All of this in the beginning of this, and basically this situation of the Trump treason, the Trump coup, in his just getting into office, trying to disrupt and take down his presidency, as Barack Obama at the head of it, with Brennan and Comey and Clapper, etc., is that what she is saying is, these operations were being handled in the UK with MI6 and CIA, and that Gina Haspel was the head of the CIA station in London at that time. Okay, Gina Haspel, who then becomes CIA director, right? It's so disgusting, right? As Pompeo becomes, in the State Department, and Gina Haspel goes into head the CIA, and how Trump was so kept in the dark, and all of this intelligence hidden by people like Bolton, who was in direct communication with Stephen Halper. And Halper, of course, was out of MI6, out of, connected with CIA and FBI, out of London, working directly with Chris Steele. And Bolton not only knew about this will be part of all the indictments coming down against Bolton, but that Bolton's aide at the time was that globalist Soros operative Fiona Hill, right? Super involved in the impeachment of Trump, just the coup attempt against Trump. So I don't want to waste too much more time on this. We all know about this, but it is just important to understand that Bolton blocked the D class that Trump was trying to do on Halper's involvement, because he was direct link with Halper. In 2018, and then in 2020, Trump, right before they stole the election, well, after, I think it was in December, after they had stolen the election, that Trump declassified this information, and then Biden immediately reclassified it. And so we're going to be seeing a lot more coming out over Bolton. And so as we move towards the China information, we're getting there, but sometimes you kind of use I want to put that in the middle of the video because there's so much other news to talk about. And I think I'm going to talk about here with JD Vance today in Israel. Very interesting that JD Vance goes to Israel today. Just a little aside on that, it's the same week that Tommy Robinson is in Israel doing his, it looks like an October 7th tour. Tommy Robinson going all over Israel, touring with the IDF, touring with the total Israeli government, all of this, Tommy Robinson. So interesting that, but it's also interesting timing if JD Vance is meeting with Tommy Robinson while he's there. But the very exciting thing that was from JD Vance was that in his speech there, from what is kind of the new DMZ, but it's really not. It is the Deconfliction Coordination Center in Kiryat in southern Israel, where they've set up this. It kind of reminds me of Titan. By that. What is his name? Now I can't remember. One of the other ones that tried to impeach Trump, trying to create these companies in Ukraine to be as the center where everything moves through with Titan. Well, the Deconfliction Coordination Center here in southern Israel is where all of the aid is supposed to go through, and all of the the troops that are going to go into Israel will be passing through. And basically, it's a command center, the American Cooperation and Command Center. And so we get J.D. Vance there with Witkoff and Kushner today, and they're talking about, look, here it is. It exists in southern Israel, this big giant warehouse. And Admiral Cooper there from CENTCOM, it's basically the hub of delivery for aid, but also the 200 U.S. troops who are, military personnel overseeing what's going through the command center and et cetera. And so we already know, like Matt Gaetz put out yesterday, the day before, basically that Trump already knows that the Rafah explosion, okay, where you had Israelis killed, et cetera, it was an Israeli settler, okay, bulldozing, like driving a bulldozer, okay, to obviously bulldoze through the rubble, where they're paid huge amounts of money to go and do this supposed cleanup work, but it also comes with the benefits and acquiring land in Gaza, etc. But these are huge, money-making situations that they drove over an unexploded anti-tank missile. And the people in Israel, like the Israelis, are super livid about the fact that, how it's coming out so clearly that Netanyahu's administration had been putting this new ISIS faction into Gaza, which of course was those people that Hamas supposedly murdered in recent days. They were the ISIS. Trump is referring to them as they were gang members or something. No, they were ISIS contingent created by Mossad, Israel, Netanyahu's faction, to come in and again, just this using jihad as a broom, right, to basically just cause more and more aggravation and dissent, etc. So very interesting to see this. But the point of what I'm saying here at 19 minutes is that what Vance had to say was really quite incredible, because he said, I'm going to be going to incredible, places here where Jesus walked the earth, and I'm very excited. He's the only person I've seen go to Israel and talk about Jesus and talk about Christianity and Christ. And he said, Christ, one of his names that he went by is the Prince of Peace. And what we really need here is Jesus. He basically said, we need the Prince of Peace to come and look over and to watch over this process, that we have peace here and that invoking Jesus Christ into Israel, make Israel Christian again, right? It's been a while. And so that is a fantastic thing. And if nothing else, right? I know they're fully pushing for J.D. Vance to succeed Donald Trump. But J.D. Vance is one of those people, as I was saying about MBamdani, I'm not comparing the two or saying they're, similar in any way. But what I'm saying is that the smile doesn't reach the eyes, right? The smile doesn't reach the eyes. And that's why I just always am, that's not the only reason. There's lots of other reasons, as I've spoken on this channel for years. But yeah, to beware and beware of, the succession, as Trump said yesterday, we need a succession of, at least 3 more terms of great presidents to be able to pull off what we're doing here to save America and to get the economy to be the greatest in the world, going against and destroying globalism. And so we'll see what goes down there. All right. And so I think I'll move in here into the Xi situation, what's going on in China. Have a little sip of water. Where we have in China, it's the 4th day, it's the 3rd day now over there of the plenary, and there's been a huge purge. And yesterday I said I wasn't sure who was getting purged. It wasn't quite clear yet. And of course, I thank Forbidden Knowledge again. She does a great job over there. Go support forbiddenknowledge.tv. And you can see the link below in the description. And it's linking to an activist from, or just a great reporter connected to, I believe, the People's New Republic of China, right? Who, out of Charles Guo and that whole movement, to basically overthrow the Communist Party of China. And what we're hearing is that no, actually, the 9 generals who were purged just before the plenary occurred were Xi's closest allies. Okay, this is huge. His closest allies in the military are now facing indictment, and it's only 7 now because 2 are already dead since their arrests. And this is, let's see, He Weidong supposedly had a sudden heart attack while in custody. And then we get He Hongjun, who committed suicide, right? So 2 of these are dead, and there's apparently 28 more generals also purged who are, less status in how important and close they were. Hundreds more being investigated. How many generals are there in the CCP, right? It's like the U.S. with a gazillion generals, where we used to only have like 40 in World War II, right? Who ran the whole deal and made sure everything was buttoned up. But basically, this is really, really incredible because this is General Zhang Yuxia, who was connected to the other CCP elder official who was at the UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly, back last month, who took the trip to Washington, got the word out to Trump that, hey, look, Xi is losing control, losing power, and Trump keeps pushing off, okay, and in, the tariffs, the meeting with Xi, he's been saying recently, we don't know if this is going to, if I meet Xi, he keeps saying, right? As this tariff thing keeps being put off because he knows that Xi is losing power and that we're seeing people like the General Zhang Yuxia being responsible for things like this purge in the military and the military tribunals coming up, because they will be military tribunals. And so, the press is reporting the opposite because Xi still holds a huge control over the press. It's kind of like the deep state here in America, where they're so bought up and paid for, they still haven't caught up with the times that they need to start changing their tune and their scripted news, meaning the olds, that they need to get real, but they're still doing what they've been told to do, and kind of putting out the opposite, that no, it was Xi who was purging the generals, etc. But that is not true, because unlike the media, where they still hold control, it looks like Xi only has control of about 10% of the military, and this gets into the generals being purged were responsible for what was going to be the upcoming invasion of Taiwan, and that was imminent. And Xi has been holding on to that, wanting that to go forward. And those were the people purged, as well as those in charge of the development of nuclear missile systems that are meant for war, and especially with a projected World War III, and that being, against the USA. So very interesting, because this is, what has been going on the last while, is Xi really purging the military himself to get rid of what was perceived as, coup-like activity, restructuring, redeveloping, who was in, who was out, kind of like Biden did after Trump left with our military, where it just destroyed, any loyalty to America. Well, Xi was doing this as well over there, and what we're seeing is those generals involved with that were also those who were purged. So it is a intense time as Trump is kind of waiting this out, and it's kind of makes me think of what Trump is also doing with the Russia, Europe, Ukraine situation, which we're going to get into here in a moment. But what we look at is, the CCP, PLA has been really close to an internal civil war within the CCP, and so and a coup, and that this basically staved that off. And now at the plenary, we're waiting to see what's going to happen in a couple of days here. At the end of the plenary, is Xi still going to be in power? So that's what I wanted to cover on that. I think it's pretty amazing and intense, and we're just going to keep watching what happens. Okay, and so as I move in over to Russia, I think I will basically, start with the fact that in the EU, we have, again, the push to, after the fight in the White House, Trump sends Zelensky packing again. No tomahawks for you. We're meeting in Hungary, etc. And then what it came out today, after Rubio and Lavrov talked, they said there's no need for an immediate meeting. And you look at the mainstream news, right up to Fox and whoever, and, the Heritage Foundation, all these same old gas bags coming out and saying, this is just Putin is playing Trump. Putin's playing Trump for time. He's just waiting him out so he can get more warring done, keep taking ground in Kiev, and he's just waiting out Trump. And it's just BS. It's such complete malarkey to think that Trump is, and again, just as Trump is always saying, gee, he's my friend, I respect him, he had this incredible life, he's an amazing man, while he's waiting out Xi, right? He always says about the people that he is basically holding at arm's length, and wanting to control, wanting to get the USA in a position of power with them, economically, etc., and trade, and geopolitically, strategically. He just praises them up and down, right? You hear it all the time. And so it's very interesting that, with Putin, he's saying the opposite. Putin says one thing, does another. He's, he's just, he's grinding down, meat grinding these Ukrainian, they're all dying, right? But as I mentioned the other day, we've got Russia saying, hey, give the tomahawks, we're going to bring in 2 million reservists, and we will grind it out. And basically Trump, and so what came out today is that, they're saying the meeting in Budapest has been canceled. We'll see what happens. We had such a great conversation between Lavrov and Rubio that it's not needed right now. And this, the EU is pushing again still to liquidate the Russian seized assets out of Euroclear. And even though the Belgian prime minister, who they tried to assassinate recently, is like, well, that will destroy the euro. Good luck, not a good idea. We get, this $350 billion that the EU needs so much, right, to incite war, because it's not only the money, although they have no money and they have no soldiers and they have no warring machine in Europe. They they also want to hit Russia hard to make them hurt and make them angry. And they want to incite and keep poking and poking and poking the bear to get their World War III, which is the only thing that they think could save their globalist agenda. Okay, it won't save their countries, it won't save the people, it won't do anything except consolidate power within Europe to smaller and smaller and smaller hands, stealing more and more and more from the people, killing off tons of Western civilization, Europeans, etc. So they're pushing for that, and basically what we're hearing about this supposed canceled meeting is that this was a leak out of CNN that then had to be dealt with after this call with Rubio. Rubio, he's a squirrely player, but what we get from Lavrov out of Russia, they said, our position hasn't changed at all since the Alaska meeting. We still stand with the exact same position, which is the position that Trump posited to Zelensky and just said, accept Putin's terms. The war is done. To the victor goes the spoils, and this is not. It's just not going to go the way you want it to go. Well, what Lavrov also had to say is one of the reasons that the consideration came up over Hungary being the meetup point in this unspecified date. The reason it was unspecified is because you had Poland, the foreign minister of Poland, basically threatening Putin, saying, "Hey, if you fly over Poland to Hungary, we could take down your plane." Meaning we could have a interception, a sort of forced landing for you to be tried in international court, etc. But basically threatening Putin with interception. That sounds much more like we could shoot down your plane. And Lavrov is saying, well, this is like a threat, a very serious Tist threat out of Poland. Remember Donald Tusk, and used to be the EU commissioner, who's now, of course, the prime minister of Poland, totally screwing over the Polish people. And what we're getting here is that that intelligence behind this Hungary meeting is that they couldn't secure it. They couldn't secure it. And so maybe they'll be meeting back up in Alaska again. But that out of Rubio, we're hearing we had a very productive call and concluded that there's no need for a meeting before next steps are taken in the process that we've already outlined. And so it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this as we keep moving forward, because it looks like a lot of disinformation, but also Trump keeping the EU on its heels, that they don't know exactly what's going to go down. He's getting massive, just hatred from the EU, the UK, about what he's doing here with Putin. And we pray that that they come to a peace agreement, right? But it is very hard when you have the EU just wanting World War III so hard. And so you get people like Maria Zakharova and the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov, basically saying that the Budapest meeting being canceled was media disinfo in the beginning, and then they're basically trying to sabotage the process. That it was this CNN fake leak that led to it becoming, it's this way of making the process appear unstable, and of course the threat out of Poland. While we have John Thune, head of the Senate, saying we're not taking any action on secondary sanctions towards Russia at this time. It's not on the table, and we will be doing what Trump wants to do in this direction when it comes time to decide on that. So all very intense stuff going on here in the world, and but very exciting as well. So I'll move on, excuse me, from there to what's going on with Comey at this moment. We've got the super corrupt judge Michael Nachmanoff out of course, the Eastern District of Virginia. used to be a federal public defender for many, many years, meaning for the defense. And he is the judge in Comey's case there that Lindsay is having to fight so hard against here. And so what we get is there's a Biden appointee who was recommended by, of course, the two of the worst senators, Mark Warner and Tim Kaine. Okay, and so he is basically talk about buying time. He is pushing against the prosecution, who, of course, naturally are saying, hey, Patrick Fitzgerald, Comey's longtime confidant, associate, and lawyer, actually was the recipient of these exact leaks that Comey is being tried for and indicted for. He received the leaks directly from Comey, okay, treasonous leaks about the government, and he obviously, has massive conflicts of interest. He can't be his lawyer in this case, and they're trying to get him removed from the case. And Nachmanoff is, so what they asked for is basically, we need a legal filter team to go in there who can, analyze the situation and give their outcome recommendations on it. And we want this to be expedited. We want it done ASAP. This is crazy. And Nachmanoff didn't grant that, basically trying to slow roll this process of possibly, as should be, if justice rules, the removal of Fitzgerald from being the lawyer of Comey in a case that he's absolutely has received the leaks that Comey is on trial for. Okay, it's insane. And I've detailed it before, linked it before with the proof around it. And basically, Comey needs Fitzgerald to be his lawyer in this case, because if not, he is, of course, an extremely credible witness against Comey. So if he doesn't have, attorney-client privilege, that can't be violated, and they still could try to do that even if he is removed. However, he would be a very valid and potent witness in this case for the prosecution. So let's pray that the good old, DOJ, the team there in Virginia, having to fight against Todd Blanche and all the deep state demon, whatever they are, whoever they are, Todd Blanche, the Democrat, basically. We need to, push that Comey doesn't get this soft glove treatment, but it is, of course, as we would know, this upstate battle against the Inns of the Court and the Pilgrim Society and this deep state judicial system. So, like during this shutdown, Trump, let's hope so many of these, as they call Darth Vader, being Russ Vogt out of OMB, let's get rid of the corrupt SES members, right? The careerists, the deep state careerists that build this whole totally corrupt, disgusting judicial system. Let's start, getting them fired one by one, 10 by 10, just get them out. Okay, and so moving from there, I think I'm going to just mention this as I sort of round up and close out here. We have coming out of Just the News with John Solomon, great expose on MBamdani when he was spent his college summer, I believe, studying Arabic in Egypt, or just further development. These, whenever you go for a language summer program in a Islamic State or anywhere, China, wherever, it's always always in quotes, but very likely connected with being groomed for a larger position. Anyway, he did it in Egypt, 2013, MBamdani, before he was a U.S. citizen still, when the Muslim Brotherhood, of course, had just had its run after Arab Spring and was in control of the country, being, of course, they were trying to take out the Muslim Brotherhood again, which they did shortly after. But MBamdani was there, and he basically, talked about in his writings around this about experiencing the addiction of revolution and protest, and how it was so exciting to be there during the Muslim Brotherhood reign. And it's just so important to, I've linked it below, and I want you to read it, because it's so important to understand the mind of the people, right? Because we're seeing another Mamdani being popping up, Katie Wilson, not quite the Mamdani Muslim Brotherhood, but Katie Wilson is likening herself to Mamdani in her communist desires as she's running for mayor of Seattle. And you have to remember there's this whole, international globalist mayors, just like the governors, but the mayors 2050 out of the UN, out of the World Economic Forum, they're all trained, groomed, paid for. And it is to, of course, take down the USA with the Red-Green Alliance and hand it over to the globalists who want to steal this country. So it's so important that we go against these people. And of course, Omar Fatah in Minnesota, I believe, being supported by Ilhan Omar to do the same thing there. And they're specifically, just like Soros did with all of the funding of the DAs and the AGs and all of that. Now this is a massive push here at the in the fourth quarter here, trying to push these mayors because that's where the weakness is. It's because people still on the local level, as much as more than ever, are fighting back now, not more than ever, but more than recently ever, okay, the last couple of decades, getting involved so much in local politics. But that's why we need it more and more and more, that you get involved in your city council, that you run against the deep state World Economic Forum planted, a lot of times foreigners, certain mostly from out of state who moved in recently, taking over your cities and towns. That is the most important thing you can do, is getting involved in these races that are local, mayor, city and town councils, people who control the land commissions. All of this is so vital. And so, so Mamdani, of course, was a sort of mentee of Linda Sarsour, which I was mentioning yesterday. She was the mentee of Siraj Wahhaj, right? Co-conspirator in the WTC BOMBING. And his super PAC even got like $1,000 from Wahhaj, and basically this is just total jihadism in New York City, and she, Linda Sarsour was involved in the grooming and creation with his mother and father out of Colombia, the jihadist and communist, to get him ready for this role. Okay, and so no mistake that he was in Egypt, right at the time of the Muslim Brotherhood brief reign there, and remember, Muslim Brotherhood did merge with Al Qaeda in the 90s, Al Qaeda, and Hamas is a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're all utilized by the same people. So just as Barack Obama was a creation of the same organization, a lot of this comes out really out of the secret societies, like and out of Cairo and other places with the Masonic groups there. It's all towards global governance, and government, and it's all foreigners installed into the USA to install their jihad with socialist takeover philosophy and sort of Arab Spring here in the US. So color revolution, Soros, blah, blah. It's like you get sick of saying the same things over and over. But yeah, this little stint that Mamdani had in Cairo during the Muslim Brotherhood rule is very, very interesting to check out and important to understand. And we need Trump to declare the Muslim Brotherhood an international theist organization, and obviously a domestic one, so that they can do the same thing where we get Besant and the Treasury and IRS and everyone with the FBI, etc., completely going after the money here, going after the organizations, and going after CARE and all of the massive Sharia takeover in this country, because the Muslim Brotherhood, when it first was created back in the 1920s, its entire thing was to establish an Islamic State, especially in Egypt, right? To have a caliphate based on Sharia law. That was the whole thing. And these same, you look at the 1920s, what was going on at the same time? Just after the Balfour Declaration and the creation of Israel, and all of this about geopolitical ways to destabilize old and ancient societies operating in the area, right? You have the Rothschilds and their minions super interconnected with the creation of um, and support of the House of Saud, right? And who was it that brought Obama into the scene, right? You had, of course, it was the cousin of Alaouid, right? It was Alaouid who tried to murder, for entertainment purposes only, Mohammed bin Salman there in Las Vegas, right? When they covered it with the Las Vegas mass murder at the concert. And it was Alawi that paid for Obama's education at Harvard and besides, and groomed him to come in to bring in this mass control of Muslims. And Obama brought in thousands and thousands of Muslims to be in government and town, basically federal, state, and local positions of power and in the judiciary. And so, yeah, we'll leave that for now. And interesting point to note, as of course, Trump is still, he's not going to say, hey, Sliwa, get out. But Sliwa is not a real Republican, okay, in New York in the mayor's race. And Cuomo is a disgusting person and belongs in indictment, shall we say, rather than as mayor of New York. I don't know if they've got him by some short hairs or what's going on, but doesn't seem like it so much that I can tell from, and I'm looking around. But, anyway, Sliwa won't drop out. MBamdani's in the lead. And the fact that this was set up this way just makes the whole entire thing look set up, right? Makes the whole entire thing look set up, and basically, prayers on what's going to happen to New York City. And so let's just kind of wind this down with a couple little tidbits of information. We have, I didn't mean to mention this when I was talking about Israel. We had a huge march of Orthodox Jews in New York while all of this is going on, basically coming out and in protesting Zionism and saying that, Zionism is not Judaism, Judaism is not Zionism. And this is so important, right? Because that's why they went after the Orthodox Jews so hard in New York and upstate New York during the biowarfare, was because, for one, they wouldn't take the shots, but also because they are against Israel in the sense that religiously and just from the Torah, that it is, there's not supposed to be a state of Israel yet. It's not supposed to be there, and that they fully are against it. And it gets into the whole what is supposed to happen, right? The state of Israel wasn't supposed to happen till later. And they see it as a, basically, sort of Radhanite Arab Rev situation to force, sort of Frankist style, this Antichrist Armageddon situation. And so that is something that hasn't been talked about much, which is pretty important. And also, I think Trump's getting closer, that as we're going to see developments maybe on November 6th, whatever happens with the No Kings, which of course is getting more and more exposed for the funding of Arabella, Soros, Tides, Rockefeller, goes on and on and on, and the $300 million behind it, that we're seeing that Trump keeps pointing out in different interviews, etc. Hey, just a reminder, 50% of the presidents of the United States have used the Insurrection Act. This is not a rare thing. This is not a king's thing. This is the fact that when there is a mass rebellion, it is the duty of the president to quell it, okay? And basically keeps inserting that. So I think that's an important thing to kind of check out. And as we're seeing sort of the waning of the old guard of the Democrats, and thankfully the Republicans as well, these people in their 80s who have made tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars through stolen taxpayer dollars to grift and give to themselves, we are seeing that it is, sort of the season is ending here for people like Chuck Schumer and Ron Wyden and Nancy Pelosi, Sanders, etc. They are all in their mid 80s, and they all are worth at least $50 million each. And so let's pray that they cannot continue to be in office at this point. And I think that God's taking care of that, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But the day has come, and they are the shining example, okay, of grift and everything wrong with this country, of how you go in, a not rich person at all, into politics and come out a massive, mega wealthy person. It's disgusting. So, okay. Republican registration keeps growing and growing. We're seeing at least 1.5 million new Republicans as registered voters this year, just in this last 10 months. And that's fantastic as well. And I will just mention this on the way out, which is, of course, this great story coming out of James O'Keefe with OMG. So good. This is about the Small Business Association fraud under Biden, and how they created, huge amounts, like the U.S. Remember, they were doing the USDA. It was everything DEI everywhere, but it was all just a giant grift to give the money back to their, their massive corporate companies. Okay, so they would use DEI as a way to funnel the money into these companies to do all the work. And what we get here is what's called 8A SBA fraud, Small Business Authority fraud. And 8A was a program of minority, subcontracting scheme. And this is like $100 billion scheme, of course, created by the Biden AutoPen people, yeah. So Blinken et al., right? But there's a lot of people in there, but I'm not going to name them now. But this woman, Melaine Cromwell, was caught on tape with James O'Keefe dressed up looking like something out of like a really bad B movie. So bizarre that it's so funny. These people are so out of loop, they don't even know what he looks like. He looks exactly like himself, but dressed up badly. Goes with this woman posing as somebody who wants to hire her for her side gig, which is like catering. And she's making buku bucks out of this SBA fraud to do with something called ATI Government Solutions that got $100 million in contracts. I mean, it's so nuts. $100 million in federal contracts by being a Native American associated company. She basically says, there's no competition. Once you're Native American, you win automatically these contracts. And then we outsource. She literally just said all this right on tape. We outsource 80% of it, the work, to subcontractors, okay, which is totally illegal, because in these SBA contracts, you have to do at least 51%, little over half of the work yourself by your own firm. In her case, it would have been ATI Government Solutions, connected with the Susanville Indian Rancheria, and she's out of Arlington, Virginia. So her big quote from this bombshell video was, pass-throughs are a great thing. Pass-throughs, right? The pass-through is where, you get the contract, and you just push the labor along to your subcontractor, who is just one of these, grifting deep state corporations that I'm sure massive amounts of money goes back to the politicians who set the whole thing up. And the CEO of that ATI Government Solutions is Firmage Crutchfield, very Native American sounding name, but no, he's like a, just a white leftist guy. And so great job by James O'Keefe over there at OMG. Okay, I'm going to leave it there today. And thanks so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll get more into more stuff. But I will end by saying thanks so much. And if you found something that really, new information, new angles, the channel worthy of supporting, There's ways to support the channel below, and I so appreciate it, and I appreciate news tips and prayers so much. Thank you, thank you. You keep the channel going, and I really want to remind everybody of my great sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. This is the great company that allows me to give away 2 bottles of the capsules every month on this channel. I love the capsules because I can put them in my pocket and take them throughout the day. And what they do is they get into your mitochondria. They go spread into your trillions of cells, okay, these incredible ESS60, which is the C60 fullerene, but it's super uber pure, made in this incredible advanced lab in Houston, Texas, where all of the garbage is taken out. There's very, very pure, extremely high quality, used in all of the studies that have been proven to show that C60 is an incredible healing and longevity supplement because it's so pure. That's why they call it ESS60. And more studies are coming out soon. There's some really great things coming out to do with migraines. People are having huge success with migraine treatment. And basically it gets through the blood-brain barrier to help clear out everything from your neurons, gets into your mitochondria and all your cells, taking the garbage out, right? And cellular health is what is longevity, right? Whenever there's cellular dysfunction, it leads to the various diseases. When we get hit by, the bioweapons and the toxins and the crap and the chemtrails and the nano shit, all of it, basically this goes into your cells and it's capturing the garbage. It's working with your glutathione and melatonin, your hormones, and taking it out of the body. And it stays in your body for quite a few days, reconstituting and taking more garbage out of your cells. It's just amazing. You need to go to c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. People who subscribe to the channel get 15% off. People who donate to the channel get 15% off and another link sent to them on how to do it. And I give away 2 bottles of this every month, randomly selected to people who are supporters of the channel. So check it out. And they have, of course, the liquids. This is the EMT oil. EMT? Sorry, I'm having MCT oil. Sorry, too much in my brain. MCT oil, which I love. This is the coconut oil. All organic, traded oils here. From single sources. This is, of course, this is the MCT oil. This is the olive oil. Olive oil has the highest concentration. MCT oil, people love it for workouts, for recovery from workouts, for soreness, inflammation, all of this kind of things. But if you check out the testimonials on the website, you'll see just it's across the board with neurodegenerative issues, autism, MS, turbo cancer, all of it, people having incredible success with this product. So thanks so much for letting me plug. You are free. Put on your God's armor, just as J.D. Vance said today. Let's pray his smile reaches his eyes someday, that, we need Christ. We need the Prince of Peace to be watching over all of this as we're in this incredible, incredible time in the history of the world, watching there be the fight back and take down of the globalist empire versus the people and humanity. So we are free. I will see you next time.